Hello, everyone. So welcome to the Rhode Island Business Competition 2022. My name is Beth Carter. I am the Executive Director. I'm so excited that we're doing it both in person as well as live. There's probably about 60 to 70 people. And I'm going to speak at the end and give you some dates that you should follow. But one of the things to think about is that obviously you can always give a good pitch. So having said that, I'm going to pitch one of our co-chairs. This is Anthony Mangiarelli. He is a partner at KLR. Unfortunately, our other co-chair, Peggy Farrell, who's a partner at Hinckley Allen, could not be with us this evening. So I'm just going to really pass it over to Anthony.
Thank you, Beth. That was an amazing pitch. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to multitask. I'm going to hold the beer, hold a piece of paper, and try to make sense of everything. So I just want to welcome everybody to our second event of the year for the Rhode Island Business Competition 2022. We are very excited to be part of the Rhode Island Startup Week hosted by our growth partner, RI Hub. So for those that are not aware, the Rhode Island Business Competition is the longest running community-sponsored competition in the Northeast. And what distinguishes us from other organizations is that we assist entrepreneurs in developing the framework for their businesses. We lock people out, welcome them all in. And Dawn's waving at me. Dawn, come on in. So what distinguishes us from community-supported other organizations is that we assist entrepreneurs in developing the framework for their business through our programs, website, our pitch contest, and while also having a competition where the winner and the finalists can win cash and in-kind services that's valued at over $150,000. And to accomplish all this, we are totally supported by our sponsors, which include private companies, service organizations, public agencies, colleges, universities, banks, investors, but most importantly, former competitors. And the ongoing support enables the competition to function year after year, which allows these entrepreneurs to transform their idea into a reality. And we have had much success. Since we were formed way back in 2000, we have over 50 previous competitors that are continuing to make a huge impact on the economic development in Rhode Island by growing and expanding their businesses, hiring employees, and buying from suppliers and service providers right here in our own state. So before we begin tonight's program, I want to acknowledge one of our partners, Venture Cafe, who's producing tonight's event and has been a great supporter of the Rhode Island Business Competition. In addition, I'd like to mention that Bryant University's social media team is here to post all of tonight's highlights. And they're in the back, she's waving at me. So we ask everyone to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and thank our Bryant team. I happen to be a Bryant alumni as well, so pretty proud of that. So yes, we are excited to have Peter George back to discuss how to perfect your pitch. This is so relevant to our entrepreneurs and anyone who is asked to give a pitch. When investors are asked what they look for in a great pitch, you'll consistently hear the same answers. Problem or need, how your product or service solves the problem, your team, your revenue model, your challenges and opportunities, and what's your slide deck look like? And I'd add one more. What's your exit strategy? Because investors usually want to see a return. And as essential as all those are, they're the nuts and bolts of a pitch. And I would love to introduce Peter, but he's going to do such a better job introducing himself. So without further delay, Peter, show us what it is that we should do to pitch our company. Thank you.
You're in an elevator. It's you and this woman. And you realize that she might make a huge difference in your business life. You start talking to her and she says to you, you have 90 seconds, go. How much time do you have? 90 seconds. No. You get the consolation prize. How much time do you think you have? Who said 15? 10, 15, probably in and around there. You have 10 to 15 seconds to capture her attention. She can tell you all she wants. You've got 90 seconds. If you don't capture her attention at the very beginning, she's not going to pay attention. And that's one of the things about pitching, especially on very limited time pitching, that we have to understand, is that we don't have the entire 90 seconds to get someone's attention and to get them to listen. No different than a TV show, no different than a movie. You must get their attention immediately. And what's the purpose of a pitch? Anybody? Introduce yourself. What else? Tell them about your business. Sell. My thought for a pitch? Who said that? Yes. Get a second meeting. You're trying to get a second date. You're not trying to get married on the first date. Usually doesn't work. So you're really trying to get that second meeting. And that's very important. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to start? If you only have 10 to 15 seconds, forget about the 90 seconds. We'll get into the rest of that later. If you only have 10 to 15 seconds, what are you going to say? How are you going to get someone interested? You can identify yourself. Two ways, two trains of thought on that. I go just the opposite. They couldn't care less who I am till they're interested in what I'm saying. Open it. Oh, yeah. Could be. Open-ended question. Good answer. Anybody else? Use action words. Anybody know what a log line is? You see them all the time. You go on cable, you go on streaming to watch a show, and you're going down the list of what's on, and it says Friends, an episode of Friends. And then it tells you what that episode is about in one sentence. That's a log line. That's what you need. You need to get someone's attention, just like the producers know that they have to get your attention with a log line. You have to get someone else's attention. In this case, the person who might help you when you pitch. So what is your log line going to be? Let me give you a couple of examples from movies. And thank God we have some people my age here. You guys are going to help me out. Because I'm looking at these and going, I don't know if any younger people know these things, but probably do. A young man is transported to the past where he must reunite with his parents before he and his future cease to exist. Anybody? To the future. This, by the way, is what producers or people, screenwriters and the like, when they go into a producer, they have 3 to 5 minutes. And the producer generally decides in the first 30 seconds if he or she is going to listen to the rest. Sometimes they absolutely interrupt them and ask them to leave. Other times they're polite, listen to the rest. These log lines have to get their attention right at the beginning. Oh, this one's just too easy. When a killer shark unleashes chaos on the beach community, it's up to a local sheriff, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer to hunt the beast down. A cowboy doll is profoundly threatened and jealous when a new spaceman action figure supplants him as the top toy in the boys' room. Toy Story. We all know these. They're all memorable. They're all ingrained, if you're old enough to have seen the movies, they're all ingrained in our minds of what they mean. And this is what's memorable. It's not the nuts and bolts. It's not the nuts and bolts of your business, which are crucial, that are memorable. It's how you get their attention, why you're doing this, why you decided to do this, what it's going to do for people, what problem it's going to solve. That's what matters to an investor. That's what matters to your judges when you pitch in the contest. That gets them to ask questions. That gets them to sit down and have another meeting with you. So many of us want to get married on that first 90 seconds. You're taking it to someone who met a girl on a blind date and was engaged just a few weeks later. We've been together for 31 years. Still my best friend. So keep that mindset. That before the nuts and bolts, and by the way, if you ask the scientists and the doctors who work on these things, they will tell you the human mind does not want to know the details till they know that it knows the concept. So when you're trying to force information on a brain that doesn't understand the concept, the nuts and bolts of the details just don't sit well. So over our time together, we're going to go over a few things that'll help. One is having that log line. But I'm also going to speak about the other two things about public speaking that go into pitching. Then we'll have Q&A. So if you have questions, write them down. We'll get to that a little later on. When you're speaking to people, there are two things happening. There's communication happening on two levels. What are the two levels? Verbal and visual, close. It actually starts us on the way there. Conscious and unconscious. Communication usually happens on two levels, conscious and unconscious. The conscious is the words. The words you're using, how you're making that person feel maybe. And the unconscious is everything else. The thing that they are not thinking about. And we all do unconscious things all day long. Like I have no idea when I'm speaking when I raise my eyebrows. It's an unconscious reaction. When I'm surprised, I know I raise my eyebrows. When I'm not really happy, I know they go the other way. And I have no idea when I roll my eyes when my wife says something till she brings it to my attention. And then the conversation takes a whole different tact at that point. So we don't know, we don't realize what's going on at an unconscious level. Subconscious we do. Subconscious, I live in Patuxent Village in Warwick, so we have planes going over us when they're landing all day long. We don't hear them anymore. But when people come over for the first time, they go, doesn't that bother you? Like what? The plane, go, oh yeah, a plane just went over, that's right. That's subconscious level, you can recall it, you can bring it to mind. Unconscious, you go, did you know you just raised your eyebrows? No, I had no clue. Did you know you just smiled? No. Did you know you nodded your head? No. That's the unconscious. So let's talk about the conscious. That's the thing you are going to say to them. That's the conversation, even if they're just listening. By the way, this is a conversation. This is not a talk, it's not a speech, it's a conversation. And when people prep for speeches and talks and presentations, they usually undermine themselves. You want to have conversations with people. You use that log line to get their attention. I call it a hook. Most speakers call it a log line. The TV and movie industry calls it a log line. But it's a hook to get them. It's not conning them. It's just getting their interest and having them know what you're talking about and why you're talking about it. And then what would you do? After you get their attention and they're interested in what you're saying, how would you include the nuts and bolts? Different ways to do it. How would any of you do it? Any idea? One way would be a story. Tell a story. You can include, as I keep calling it, the nuts and bolts. Who you're serving, the money you've raised, the money you need, all these things. You can include that in a story. Why a story? Why do stories matter? Excuse me? People relate to them, and we remember them. Who here can tell me the Three Little Pigs? When's the last time you heard it? My kids are 39 and 40, so it's been a while. I can take a good shot at it. Little Red Riding Hood, any of those. God forbid the pokey little puppy, which I had to read to my son time and time again. And that's still with me. I haven't forgiven him yet. So stories stick with us. And we share stories. Do we share them exactly? No. But if you use a story in a pitch, that person that you're speaking to can then go relate it to someone else, another investor, their partner, whoever it may be. Figure out how you'll use a story in your pitch. It can go right from that log line. Log line sets up the story, tell the story. Just going to touch on 3 conscious acts here. Log line to get their attention, tell the story, and what's the one thing a lot of people forget in a pitch? I don't care if it's a 90-second pitch, a 5-minute pitch, or a half-hour pitch. What do many people forget to do? Call to action, ask for the money. Many people forget to ask for the money. It's normally not done at the beginning, but to get the whole thing started on Shark Tank, if you've ever asked Shark Tank, and they say, so that's why we're here to ask for $100,000 for 5% of the company. That's just to get the television side of it going. But ask for the money or the investment if it's a different type. If it's not cash, it's something else. What about the unconscious level? What are people reading? What are people looking for? There's one thing, anytime anybody's up here speaking, anytime you're sitting across a desk or a table, conference room table, or anything like that, or standing out at the bar face to face, what are people looking for? At an unconscious level, they don't even know they're looking for it. What is it? Eye contact. Funding online. Emotional response. Confidence. They are looking for confidence. And when you're talking money, they are more than looking for confidence. They don't even know that. An astute person that you're speaking to might, but most of us, once we get into the conversation, we don't realize that that's what we're looking for. And how you represent yourself, I'm not talking about clothing necessarily or anything like that, but mannerisms and the like. You don't have to be eloquent. I'm not. I don't have a huge vocabulary. I don't try to, and I have a stutter. So if I try to use a 5-syllable word, it's not happening. So they're not looking for that. They're just looking that you have confidence. So we're going to talk about a few ways you can display confidence. It's the first one you think. Eye contact. Eye contact's great. Here's the deal. Mom was right. Everything Mom told you about talking to other people, she was right. And I love my mother dearly, and she's passed, but it bothers the hell out of me that she was right. I've studied this for years and years and years, and it all came back to all I had to do was listen to my mom. Look people in the eye when you're speaking to. Now, many of us, when we're thinking, we might not look you in the eye back. And that's not a bad thing. It's just like people doodling when you're speaking. If people are out there doodling, I have no problem with that. That's just the way you think. That's the way your mind processes things. I doodle when I'm listening. So that's not a bad thing. But look people in the eye when you're talking. Look them in the eye when they're speaking to you. What else? What else will make a difference that they're not even going to realize makes a difference? Anybody? Don't talk too fast. What do you mean by that? You get nervous, you start speaking like this, you just keep going on and on and on and on. Speaking too quickly is not a problem. Not pausing is a huge problem. Pause when you speak. You do it with your friends, you do it with your loved ones, but when we get up here, when we pitch, when we speak to people elsewhere, where we think we're the speaker and we have to communicate, a lot of us don't pause. But I guarantee you, when you sit down with someone you care about and their dog just got hit by a car and you're the one who's telling them, you don't say, hey, I got to tell you something. Your dog got hit by a car. It's too bad, she's dead. And then, by the way, this is what we're doing tonight. No, I know I'm being very facetious, but think about how you would say that. You'd ask them to sit down. And you'd say, I've got something really important to tell You'd pause. So they can mentally, if not even physically, lean in a little bit. And then you would tell them. And then what would you do? Pause. So they can process it. And that's what you want to do when you're pitching. You only have 90 seconds, but to your point, no one really speaks too quickly. No one really speaks too quickly. Go down to New York or anything like that. They don't speak too quickly. They don't pause very much, but they don't speak too quickly. We can hear 12 times faster than anybody can talk. What we can't do is comprehend it, process it. Can't do that. I know what I'm going to say. You don't. I have to give you time to process it. Here's how I'd like you to remember it. Cap on the water, otherwise it'll end up all over the floor. You go away. You're on vacation 2 weeks. You come home and you have to water the plants. You take a bottle of water or a can of water or whatever, and you go onto that hard soil. What happens? Goes right off to the sides, right? Does no good whatsoever. So how do you have to water a plant when it has hard soil? Little on, let it seep in. Little on, let it seep in. So when you're presenting, even in 90 seconds, you have to understand where those pitches are going to be. Are those pauses going to be in a pitch? You can't pause for like 5 or 6 seconds. You don't have that amount of time. Or a little on. Let it seep into your audience. Or a little more on and let it seep in. Just remember the bottle. It's as simple as that. So speaking quickly, yep, people can slow down, but if they just pause, that's what we often mean when we say, Peter speaks too quickly. Peter's not pausing and letting me put stuff in. What else? Just this. How do most people stand when they speak to other people? Is this impressive? People say, when we ask people, and I'll ask my clients, why are you standing on one hip? It's comfortable, okay? Then when I show you the video I just took when you were presenting, why did you constantly go from one hip to the other? Well, my hip got tired. So it's not comfortable. That's what we do. Now think if we're standing out there at the bar, we're the customary 2 feet away from each other. And I'm like this. So tell me what you would think. I'm like this. And while you're talking, what are you thinking? I want another beer. I want to get the shrimp before it's gone, or I have to go to the bathroom. Any one of the three, I don't want to be here. And that's what we're telling people. And it's no different if you're standing 2 feet away from someone or 20 or 200 feet away from someone. That's how it's perceived. So back to mom. Mom was right. Stand up straight. Weight between the 2 legs. And let's face it, it's more comfortable to put weight on 2 legs instead of 1. Unless you're a stork or a crane or something. They can do it. They're made to do it. We're not. So stand up straight. Here are things not to do when you're speaking to people. So if you're pitching in this competition, when you get up there, even if you're nervous, stand up straight. You don't have to be a tree. You don't have to plant your feet into the ground and stay here. You've noticed me, I'll come over and speak to this area, and then I'll mosey on over and speak to this area. I don't pace back and forth, but I do that. You don't have to be a tree, but when you get there, think of gymnasts. A gymnast is on that 4-inch beam, whether it was in the Olympics that just passed or in a world championship or anything else, collegiate. She's done all the spins and twists and jumps and everything they do on that beam, which is amazing. Then she gets to the end and she's looking down the other end. What does every commenter say every single time? All she has to do now is stick the landing. So when you're speaking and you're doing this pitch, if you want to show confidence and you have several judges, get in front of a judge and stick it. Get in front of another judge and stick it. Don't be afraid to move, but don't wander back and forth. It makes a lot of difference to how they feel about you. And again, they don't know why they feel that way about you. All they know is they didn't feel comfortable. That's one thing. Another thing, even if you're standing still, please don't do this. And this generally goes out to women. No offense. Men generally don't do this. Don't do this. And for you at home or watching on live, yeah, don't cross your legs and stand there. Anybody have an idea why you do that? There's two reasons. One, to make yourself smaller, and the other is you're really, really nervous. That's how we protect ourselves. You got to be really nervous, but that's how nervous many people are when they're speaking. The other is the fig leaf. We've all been at award shows or whatever, banquets, and they say, we're going to have the people who had the highest sales for the last quarter come up. The 5 people come up and they're going to get their award. And before they go up to the lectern to get their award, they're all like this. Because they're nervous that everybody's watching them and they're not used to it. And unfortunately, I had a young lady who was a client, and when she first started speaking, she'd be like this. And I asked her, Bethany, what do you think's going to happen to you? And she said, I'm really nervous. Yeah, it shows. Don't do that. Don't stand like that. Don't stand with your legs completely together, because then you just, after a while, and people stop taking money on, when's she going to fall? When's he going to topple over? Relax. What do you do with your hands? For that matter, do people read hands? 100%. What do you do with your hands? Italian, right? Only a little bit? Yeah, you look it. I don't. I'm Italian. My last name's actually Giosa. I'm Italian. Everybody else in my family looks like you. I'm the only, yeah, a lot of stories. But what do we say in Italian families? Tie my hands together, I can't talk. What do we say in Portuguese families? Tie my hands together, I can't talk. We say it in just about every ethnicity. Why? Because we talk with our hands. And people read our hands much more than you'll ever understand. It goes back only about 8, maybe 900,000 years, why that is. But it's a protection device. And it hasn't left our brains yet. It has not evolved out of our brains yet. 900,000 years ago, if we were walking across the village to each other, what will we look at? We do it now. We do it today. Out there you did it. I guarantee you did it. If I videoed it, you would have done it. You look each other in the eye first for a split second, then what do? You have to look at the other person's hand just to know if they're going to shake your hand or not, and then you have to continue to look at it to make sure you don't miss or do that half thing that everybody then feels awkward about. Hands matter. And the funny thing is, what you might not realize, and I've been teaching speaking for almost 18 years now, and I've been speaking on stage for 35, is I'm an introvert. I'm an extreme introvert. And on top of that, I'm very shy. Two and two don't always go together, but in my case, they do. And when Beth and I first came in, she left me. And my thought is, oh my God, what do I do now? I might have to talk to people. And I prepared myself for that. And the first thing I noticed that I did when Beth left was this. I put my hands in my pocket. You put your hands in your pockets, it shows people perceive, without thinking about it, unconscious level, that you're hiding something. And I was. That my security blanket just left the room. And I caught myself doing that, saying, oh my God, I didn't realize I was that nervous. I have no reason to be nervous, it's just me. Keep your hands out of your pockets, use your hands. Who's ever caught themselves on the phone using your hands? You all do. You might not realize it, but you all do. The other people can't even see you. And you're using your hands. We communicate with our hands. Just like on a receptionist's phone, it says smile. So they remember to smile because they always say you can hear the smile on the other end of the phone. People can hear us gesture on the other end of a phone. There's a difference between me saying, we've got to do this, and we've got to do this. Your hands talk as much as your mouth does. Your body language talks as much as your mouth does. It's saying stuff behind your back. It's not always nice. So when you're up there pitching, make sure you're representing yourself well. Whenever you're speaking in front of someone, make sure you're representing yourself well. And if you want a little tip, show people the palms of your hands. You'll notice now that when I'm speaking to you, quite often I'll just roll my wrist open a little bit and show you the palms of my hand. Why do we show the palms of our hands? Vulnerability? You know, I don't know if I've ever heard that before, but I like that a lot. Welcoming, we connect. We connect, probably for those reasons and more, we connect with the palms of our hands. If I were to beg you for food or water to sustain my life, how would I come to you? If I were to give you a special gift, how would I give it to you? And studies show that when we instruct people to do things, if we show the palms of our hands, we have about an 82% opportunity for a good response. If we point, it goes down to 24%, and if we just close our palm over, it's about 52, 53%. Just this. This is why some airlines say we have exits here, here, and here. Why the other airlines use two fingers and go, we have exits here, here, and here. They know one finger's rude, so I guess two fingers is not rude. Go here. Many airlines would have them use the palms of their hands. Communicate with the palms of your hands. And for some reason, and I've never figured this out, and again, for more than 17 years, I could ask you tomorrow, what do you do with your hands? And so many people will say, you do this. When I was speaking, when did I ever say do? It's not Jesus the defender looking over Rio de Janeiro. You don't put your hands way out here and show your palm. You just roll your wrist a little, or drop your hand, show your palm. That actually communicates to people. And all of this sounds like, wow, this doesn't make a difference when pitching. Certainly does. You can find the pitching aspect anywhere. Anywhere, just look up online, see it anywhere. The unconscious aspect of it, that's the part most people don't include because they all want to go into say this, and say this. Important, but this is just as important, in many cases more so. So use your hands. Don't put them in your pocket, and God forbid, don't do this. That's really hiding your hands. You think in your pockets hiding your hands? Don't put them behind your back. Anybody here ever in the military? Thank you, to begin with. At rest, at ease, hands behind your back. Anybody know why the military does that? You cannot strike your superior from this position. You have to get into another position before you could strike them. That's why they have you stand this way. You are submissive. This is a submissive act. If you've ever had the opportunity, and unfortunately I did once when I was young, to have a car with flashing lights come up behind you and ask you to get out of the car, they ask you to stand that way. so you can't hurt them. Don't be submissive. You're in control. Even if they're the people judging you, even if they're the people with the money, you are in control of your destiny. So use your hands, use your body as you would. Voice. What do you do with your voice? What happens to your voice when you get nervous? Shakes? Yeah, and that's about the most movement it has, because otherwise most people just go flatline. Their voice died somewhere along the line. Today I want to talk about this. And it means a lot. We saw a need. We want to fill that need. Use your voice. Have fun with it. Play with it. Here's what I do with my clients, and I always wait for this particular time when I speak to my clients and say, here's what I want you to do for homework. Get a Dr. Seuss book or two. Like, what? Get a Dr. Seuss book or two. And I want you to read it and read it and read it. And if you have kids, it's a wonderful excuse. If you don't do it with anybody in the house. They just think you're nuts. But you can't read Dr. Seuss like this. It just doesn't work. It has to get melodic. So we want our voice. We want pace to change. When you get excited, be quick, more quickly, and a little bit higher. You never see the films of the coach at halftime at a college football game saying, well, I think we can go out there and do better in the second half, and we're really going to push them back and hold them from our defense has. No, they get up here, and you got this big coach, 6'2", 280 pounds going, and we can do it, and the voice goes high and fast. Not saying to do that in pitching, but understand that's when we're excited, our voice goes high and fast. When we get dramatic, it goes low and slow. Vary them. Again, it will make a difference. It will have people saying, you know what? I don't think he has the best plan here, but I love his enthusiasm. I love how he's connecting. Who here has watched Shark Tank? The vast majority of you. How many times have you seen where they say, yeah, I don't think your numbers are right. As a matter of fact, I think your numbers are so far off base, but I like you. And there's something we can do here. That's what you want to do when you're pitching, is to make that connection. So use your voice. And using your voice, going right back to pausing, make sure you pause when you need to. Greatest thing you'll ever say? Nothing. You get excited, high and fast, dramatic, low and slow. Bring people along. All right, so based on the time here, based on what we've been talking about so far, what questions do you have? I've covered everything that be the first time. Yes.
No matter what I do, 50% of the people are for me and 50% are against me. It's along political. So I've experimented with so many different things, including thank you for what you're talking about, because it affirms. So I'm yet not sure how to neutralize 50% against me. And let me tell you what I do. I study marijuana impaired driving. Pro marijuana people tend to think I'm against marijuana.
I've watched you pitch before.
Yeah, and I've been told it needs cleaned up considerably.
I remember it, and as soon as you said it, I remembered you pitched in this room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still haven't overcome 50-50.
Okay, here's what I think about that. And we can get into how you can increase that. But if I had 50% of the people I speak to be in favor of what I'm saying, and I can connect with 50%, I've done a damn good job. 50% is not a bad number. And you do have a touchy subject. Getting less and less touchy every day, but you do have what could be a touchy subject. But truthfully, even if people don't admit it, I was moderating something 2 nights ago that had to do with recreational cannabis. 70% of the people are for it. So you're probably more like 70-30. Excuse me? Please. I would. Yeah, I would. Anytime you say you might agree with me or not, guess what? The vast majority of the people going, cool, I don't. Now prove it to me. So you're couching it. So don't do that. As the young lady said, come out with the log line. Tell a story. Great way to do it. Tell a story. Talk about someone who's impaired for marijuana and either kill themselves in an accident or someone else. Tell that story, and that'll give the basis of why you're doing what you're doing. Really? That could be part of it. That could be part of it. Storytelling. Yeah, I'd put it right at the beginning. Hey, to get their attention. And again, the nuts and bolts don't matter if we don't know why we want to listen. So, well, we all do. We all do. My wife reminds me every so often when she comes to one of my presentations that I do. Yes.
How long should the story be? Because if you ramble too much, people turn you off.
Yes. If you ramble too much, people turn you off. Plus, in the case we're talking about, you've got 90 seconds. This cannot be a very long story. But it also can't be an anecdote, which is a point. Anybody know the difference between a story and an anecdote? Yours. I like that. What else? An anecdote doesn't have a moral. An anecdote's just a cute little, what we think is a story. But it doesn't have a moral to it. And the other thing it might not have to it is conflict. Stories have conflict. For more than 100 years now, Hollywood, in one version or the other, has done boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl in the end. One variation or another. And now it's genders mixed up all different ways, which is great. But how interesting would it be? Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, boy marries girl. Doesn't work. Have conflict. When you're pitching, you have a new product or a service for a reason. What is the problem you're solving? Nothing matters unless you're solving a problem. Think of those log lines. First one we read, Back to the Future. Transported to the past where he must reunite with his parents before he and his future cease to exist. It's a problem. Jaws, Before the Shark Eats the World. Toy Story. He thought he was being supplanted by the other toy. There's always a problem. Think of the Lion King. Can't remember what his name was. The little guy. He was always getting into trouble. Stories have conflict, and you're here to pitch to solve that conflict, that problem. In your log line, you have to show the problem. You do that, people listen. Other questions? And if you want to talk about stories, we can stand outside later and talk about stories, and I'll help you with it.
We have a question from the virtual audience.
Sure.
What should I do if the investors use jargon and acronyms I don't understand while they ask me questions?
Easy answer to that is, I don't understand the acronym. Could you please use it? I wouldn't say use English, but could you please tell me what you mean by that? Which brings up another thing. Try not to use TLAs. Anybody know what a TLA is? 3-letter acronym. Don't use them. People don't understand them. One of the problems if you're in the corporate world, by the way, when someone gets onboarded and they go, okay, you're going to have an SRA and you're going to do a QLM, you're going to do all that. And people go, uh-huh. And they walk out of there going, I have no idea. Man, I just don't fit in here. I've seen one company do that well, and that's Starbucks. To the consumer, by the way, you have to learn their language to get a freaking drink. And if you don't, you go to Dunkin' Donuts, like me, because I can't learn their lingo, so I go to Dunkin' Donuts. But once you do learn their lingo, you're part of the family. Very few companies can use that to perfection. They did. Don't try it. Stay away from the acronym. So for the person, if they ask you an acronym like ROI, I am surprised, and it's my own fault. That's one of the acronyms I use in business because I thought everybody in business knew ROI. Nope, they don't. Believe me, they don't. So, and that's not their fault, that's my fault. So now if someone said ROI, a judge says, well, let's talk about the ROI, and you don't know what ROI is, say, could you please explain that? And they'll say return on investment. They're not going to think you don't know what you're talking about because you're an expert in your product or service, not necessarily in business. That might be the team you talk about because you're going to talk about the problem you solve, why you're solving it, your team, your experience, the momentum you have, the money you need. But they don't expect you to be an expert necessarily in all aspects of it. Shouldn't be. Have one?
And then we have another question. How do I get out of a question an investor asks and I don't have an answer for that? So I don't look unprepared, usually financial questions.
Say, I don't know. Nothing wrong with saying I don't know. I will get back to you later. You can't be prepared with absolutely everything they're going to say or ask. By the way, be prepared. I can't believe how many pitches I see at competitions like this where the people give it a thought as they're walking in that door. You're asking for money. You're putting your own credibility on the line. If you want to be calmer, people go, I don't want to do that because I'm so nervous. Want to be calmer? Get prepared before you walk out get prepared before you leave your house. Last week, be extremely prepared. Practice. Have people ask you questions. Ask yourself the question. Answer it. But be prepared. Would you go to a bank unprepared to ask for $50,000, $100,000 loan? Them say, do you have your financials? And you go, well, I've got them written down on this piece of notepaper. Probably not going to get the loan. I'm just guessing. I'm not a financial person. Just guessing you're not going to get the loan. Be prepared. Anytime you speak, as long as it's not something you're being asked right away, be prepared. By the way, here's how you prepare. Greatest thing ever invented for a speaker. And if you don't have one, go buy one. I was actually going to say, if you don't have one, I'll buy one for you because I know you have one. Everybody has one. Greatest thing ever. Speaking in front of a mirror, well, once upon a time, that's all we had. Before there were VHS tapes or anything like that, that's pretty much what we had. Speaking in front of a mirror doesn't work and can't work because you can't critique yourself and concentrate on your presentation at the same time. It does not work well. This, however, is fantastic. Prop it up, hit record, have at it. Then I want you to do this. View it 3 different ways. No, one's not viewing. Turn it on, play it back, put it face down so you can't see it. And listen to yourself. Am I pausing? Am I saying, too much? Is my voice shaking? All the things you want to know. Then play it back again and watch it, but turn the sound off. Am I pacing? Am I standing like this? By the way, even on Zoom, people can tell when you're standing on your hip. Because watch my shoulders. My shoulders change and my head has to correct itself, my neck. So watch for that, and then watch it as you normally would. And each one of those, taking notes, correcting it, doing the best you can. Tremendous device, all kidding aside. Be prepared. What other questions? Yes. No, you just get used to it over the years. Funny story about that was when I got out of school and I went to work for a major corporation. One August day, I was selected to take president of the company. This is a worldwide company, one of the best known brands in the world. I was chosen to take him around Boston. And he came in from the parking garage with a bead of sweat on his forehead. And he grew up in Detroit, where there is no such thing as an accent. They speak perfect Americanese. And I looked at him and said, "Neil, would you like a bottle of water?" And in his sarcastic way said, "A bottle of what?" I said, "Water." He said, "You mean water?" By the way, my name's Peter. That was back then. We're talking in the early 80s. It doesn't matter anymore. We're too used to, between the internet, television, movies, we're too used to accents. And accents, I think, are the greatest things. You hear someone with an accent, cool. Tell me where you're from. I don't care if that's another country, another state. Cool. Where are you from? Because if you call me Peter, you're not from around Rhode Island. That's not how my name's pronounced here. By the way, they sent me to classes in New York City to get rid of my accent, because I was moving up through the company, to get rid of my accent. And then I came home because my dad died. It's the only reason I left the company. My dad died and I came home to Rhode Island. And I met this girl I told you about on a blind date who has the worst Rhode Island accent you've ever heard in your life. And 3 weeks later, my name went from Peter George to Peter Judge. So, no, to answer your question, no, don't worry about it. There are certain words we'll say with our accents that we have to slow down on. But that's all. No one gets bothered by them anymore. One of my fun stories is actually many years ago, I spoke in Mobile, Alabama. I spoke for an hour. They had no clue what I said. We had 15 minutes of Q&A. I had no idea what they asked. We had an awesome time. No, not anymore. What else? Yes. Oh, I thought you were going to raise your hand when you moved it. Yeah. So you move your hand? Anybody online? Any questions? Okay. How much time do I have? I have more time? All right, so now let's go back to what you're actually going to talk about. You've got your log line. One sentence, by the way. Remember all those? None of them had more than one sentence. One sentence. Not a run-on sentence either. Any lawyers here? No lawyers? Okay, you're not a lawyer with clauses just going on and on and on and run-on sentences. Real brief. Watch, there are 6 lawyers online who are now not happy. So, there's at least one. I apologize. I have lawyers in the family. I pick on them all the time. So, real brief. Then, like I went over very quickly before, you have to talk about you. Why you? They're interested in that. Hopefully they're interested in that. Why your team? Have you rolled this out? If so, have you had success? Or have you been hitting obstacles? what's been going on while you're doing this. Why do you need their help? And the easy answer is money. Not a good answer, but it's an easy one. Because they're not going to say, you need money? Oh, why didn't you tell me? Here you go. Not it. They want to know what you're going to do with the money. Back to Shark Tank. You see every once in a while, it's like, but you haven't told us what you're going to do with the money. Well, I'm going to use it for marketing. There's a revelation. No kidding. How are you going to use it? So in that brief amount of time, these are the things you want to cover. You don't have much time. And unfortunately, as I've seen pitches here and other places, when people aren't prepared, we talked about that before, they come in and go, what do you mean 90 seconds is up? I still have to talk about this, 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 and this. Now, in this type of situation, I don't know who the judges are, and I don't know their attitudes. But in many pitches, a lot of judges in a competition like this, and Beth, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, will go, okay, we know he's a little nervous and we're going to give him a little slack. On other ones, no. You want us to give you money or you want us to help you, but you didn't take time to prepare. We know you're nervous. That's a given. Anybody who gets up and asks for money and competes in that way, they're nervous. Here's what I want you to do with that, by the way. Anybody ever watch a Super Bowl game? They interview many of these guys before the game, right? And they say, I am excited. I've never been in the Super Bowl before. I'm so excited. But after that first hit, it'll just be another game. They say, I'm excited. Someone says, Peter, can you come up and speak to 1,000 people? And I go, I'm so nervous. Why am I saying I'm nervous? It's the very same thing that football players experiencing. Exactly. My heart's racing. His heart's racing. My blood pressure's up. His blood pressure's up. Our brain's going a mile a minute. Mine and his. The same thing that happens to that football player happens to someone getting up to speak. The very same thing, but we label it as nervous. Why? Because people like me make a living on you being nervous. Be excited. You have the opportunity. By the way, 1% of the people in the world have the opportunity to pitch for their business. Not a lot. It's not a lot. You have a very rare opportunity. Be excited and embrace that opportunity. That makes a world of difference. Same thing. Who here likes roller coasters? Sick people. Okay, roller coasters. A lot of people. Have you guys, if you like roller coasters, have you ever asked someone to go on a roller coaster and they're like, all the time, right? Your wife. She's like, I'm scared to death. You're saying, but this is exciting. Same feeling. Exactly the same thing going on. And when we go, I can't understand you. I don't know why not. It's this, they're feeling exactly the same way. It's just labeled differently. So how do you calm your nerves? And by the way, I subscribe to what Mark Twain said. Two kinds of speakers. Those who are nervous and those who are liars. Everybody's nervous. Name them. Steve Jobs, possibly the greatest business presenter of our time, nervous. Oprah Winfrey, nervous. For my generation, Johnny Carson. Who here does not know who Johnny Carson is, by the way? Anybody? Oh, Jay Leno. Okay, the predecessor of Jay Leno. Johnny Carson was considered the greatest at what those guys do. The speaker did. 30 years. He heard the words, here's Johnny. And he had to come out from behind that curtain. There was a bucket at the edge of that curtain so he could vomit. He never did, by the way, but he was so afraid that if they ever took the bucket away, he actually would vomit. He was that nervous. Nerves are okay. If you get nervous, I'm not really nervous. I got this. I've been rehearsing. It's only 90 seconds. I'm cool with this. And then you walk up in front of the judges and you go, oh, baby, here's what I want you to do. I get paid for this, by the way, folks. That's it. Go to Broadway, watch an actor lose her lines. Watch what she does. Their body relaxes. Before you ever come in the room, do diaphragmatic breathing. Anybody know what that is? They always say, sing from your diaphragm, all that. It's funny, I interviewed for my podcast, I interviewed a voice coach. He'll be on later this year, but she's had Grammy Award winners, the Voice winners. She's down in Nashville and is a high-end coach. And she said, I have never once told one of my clients to breathe down to their belly button, down to their diaphragm. I tell them to breathe down to their heels. So before you come in to talk, in through your nose, out through your mouth, so you can hear it, by the way. You might want to go to the bathroom to do this, and if it's a multi-stall bathroom, make sure no one else is in there, because they'll be thinking you're hyperventilating. But, and that's when you hold your breath. 4 beats after you've expelled the air. You're not at a doctor's office. It's not, and I'm holding my breath. It's when you let the air out and hold your breath. If you hold the breath while it's in there, that's dead air. You don't want that in your body. Expel it, and that's when your body relaxes. All the things that happen when you get nervous, relax. I don't care if it's speaking or anything else. Here's what I want you to teach your wife. Honey, hold it and tell her to do it 5 more times. She'll probably make a hand gesture to you at that point. I don't know your wife, but I know mine. So yeah, right? That's what you want to do to calm yourself down. And by the way, if you do this, I don't know why you're doing it. I don't know why we do that as a species. When we inhale, we lift our shoulders. There's nothing in your body that lifts your shoulders when you breathe. Not a thing, but don't do that. Just relax. That makes a difference. So I'm going to sum it up with this. Be ultra prepared. There's no such thing as being too rehearsed. There just isn't. You do not want to give your draft, your first draft, the night of the event. Rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. By the way, do not rehearse for 90 seconds. Why? Well, you don't have that much time to get their attention, but they'll say go, and you go, and you're on. All right, well, now you have 84 seconds. So don't rehearse. I have my clients, whenever they speak, I don't care if they speak for an hour. If they speak for an hour, they rehearse for 54 minutes. If you end at 87 seconds, no judge is going to go, Peter only spoke for 87 seconds. He wasted 3 seconds. No. No one cares if someone speaks too short. You speak for 30 seconds, they might go, yeah, you weren't prepared. Shoot for a little less. You'll probably come out at 90. Rehearse. Have that log line that catches their attention, the hook. Got to do that. Tell a brief story that incorporates everything that you want to say, including how when you're talking about your business and how it's been going. Keep those extremely brief, because again, you only have 90 seconds. It's a long time. Make sure the story has conflict. Once you do all that, use your body like we talked about. Stand up straight, keep your hands out of your pockets, talk with your hands. And it's funny, because this is the first time in many years I've used a handheld mic. And I'm sorry, I forget your name. When Jordan gave it to me, my first thought is, I'm going to. So use your hands, use your body, use your voice, be yourself. Absolutely be yourself. Not yourself at home with a can of beer in your hand and your underwear watching the football game with your feet up on the coffee table. Yourself for pitching and for communicating with others. Be yourself. If they don't like you, that's rife. But as long as you're prepared, you'll do the best you can do and give it your best shot. If you're not prepared, then you'll get exactly what you deserve. I hate to put it that way, but it's just the way life works. Be prepared. If you have any other questions, I will stay out in that room. I'll stay out on the street, out on the sidewalk, and talk to you all night about this stuff. I don't know how we're going to get the people who are online, but we'll bring them along too. I will answer anything you want to answer because I know a lot of people are nervous about asking the question in an open forum, and I'm happy to do that. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Peter. I think everyone got a lot of good tips, a lot of good ideas. None of us will ever walk around with hands in our pockets again. So anyway, I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, our pitch contest is November 11th. And we would love to fill this room. 2 years ago when we were in person, we had about 150 people in this room. We had over 80 pitches. But to participate in this, you actually have to get, sign up is by Friday, November 5th at 5 p.m. and we will shut it down. So if you are at 5:01, you will be knocked out. So it is a 90-second pitch. We have judges and you can pitch, your business, of course. We do have some prizes as well. The key thing with this too is that we put a booklet together with all the different businesses with the contact information. So it's a great opportunity to promote your business in other ways besides your pitch, although I'm expecting really good pitches for the people that have been here tonight. It is a free event, as is all of our events. The other thing I do want to mention is that if you are looking for decorations for your laptop, we have lovely Rhode Island Business Competition stickers. We would love for you to put them on your laptops, put them elsewhere. These are mobile billboards, in my opinion. So we would love for you to take some of those. So if you are looking to participate in the pitch contest, please, again, November 5th, Friday at 5 p.m. And then, of course, look at our events that we're going to be having in the new year. In January, we're going to have Build Your Business Plan. We have a professor from Bryant University, which is one of our big sponsors. He will be doing that. In February, we'll be talking about how to identify your customers and how to promote to them. And then in March, we have our famous, always have this, Find Your Funds. And then, of course, we have our application for our competition is early January. So I strongly suggest you look at our website, ri-business.com. The other thing is we have an amazing resource tab. So at 2:00 in the morning, like, I have this idea for a business and I need co-working space, or I need legal services, I need accounting services. It's all listed for you. So if you have any questions, please come see me. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And again, thank you, Peter. You did an excellent job. And I will pause for a second because I've been told to. So anyway, have a great evening. Thank you.